is to honor God and bring blessing to the world. More information is available at goodinvestor.com. That's goodinvestor.com.
Hi, I'm Riley Long here at the AFA Foundation. One of my main things that I like to do is visit with our supporters, whether it's traveling or just on the phone. We sit down and talk with them. You can visit us at afafoundation.net or give us a call at 345.
Faith and Finance is grateful for support from Sound Mind Investing. For more than 30 years, they've offered financial wisdom getting started to those getting ready for retirement. More information, including the short video webinar on profit and peace of mind, no matter what's happening in the market, is available at soundmindinvesting.org.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. I'm Rob West. Looking forward to hearing from you today as we take your phone calls. That number to get in on the conversation with your questions, 800-525-7000. The calls are coming in, but still room for you at the moment. So if you've got a question, something going on in your financial life, maybe you're wrestling with something over the weekend, or you had a family gathering and you and your brother-in-law were talking about different ideas about how to manage money, or maybe he had a hot investment tip for you, and you want to run it by us, get in on the conversation right now. 800-525-7000. Again, it's 800-525-7000. We're going to head to Oregon here in a moment, talk to Lynn, and then we'll head out to Texas and perhaps your call as well. But first, in the news today, it looks like savings rates will remain attractive for the time being, and that's good news for savers. As of this week, some banks are offering savings accounts with interest rates above 4.4% APY. That's according to Bankrate. These elevated rates have stuck around because the Federal Reserve has held interest rates steady for months now, even though inflation is easing. So banks are still competing for deposits by offering generous yields, and that means it might be wise to lock in a better rate now before the yield curve starts to slip. In terms of where this might be headed, nobody knows. We talked to Jerry Boyer on Friday. We'll get with Bob Dahl today, but Jerry's thoughts were, although some are calling for a rate cut this month, most are saying that we're probably not going to see that come until the fall. By the way, a strictly online bank will probably get you a better rate than your local brick and mortar bank because they don't have the overhead of physical branches. As always, compare rates, check for fees to make sure your savings are working. But you know who else consistently offers competitive rates, and that is Credit Union. And we always recommend checking out our trusted partner, Christian Community. Credit Union, not only do they offer excellent savings options, but by partnering with them, they're also engaging, or you would be, with a ministry that helps you spread the gospel and shares the love of Christ. And so they have some pretty attractive rates right now, but the big draw alongside that for so many of our listeners is just this idea that they want to be aligned with institutions, vendors, partners that share their values, whether that's their investment portfolio or, in this case, your banking partner. And know that the corporate profits, in this case it's a credit union, so it's a not-for-profit, but the money coming in is not going to causes that would be misaligned with your values. If you want to learn more, just go to faithfi.com/banking. That's faithfi.com/banking. But the big idea, the more attractive rates are still hanging around, despite the fact that we thought they would have been much lower by now, so take advantage of them. All right, lines are filling up, so let's head to the phones. We're going to begin in Oregon today. Hi, Lynn. Go ahead.
Good morning. Last week, you mentioned, I believe, a percentage of amount you should leave in your 401k versus pulling it out and, say, putting it into a Roth, and there had been some research done on that. It seems like you said to add a number to your age, 20%, and that gives you an idea of how much to leave in the 401k. Could you explain that again and the reasoning behind that? Because the 401k is kind of limited in the investments that you can use.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So where this often comes up is for those that have a traditional and a Roth 401k option at their employer. But this could also apply to those using IRAs as well. But the idea is that, well, it came from two University of Arizona researchers. And, you know, the main idea that they were looking at was around this idea that tax rates could change in the future. So they studied this and came up with a rule of thumb that they said, quote, produces near ideal results. And that rule of thumb is simply to add the number 20 to your age, put that percentage into a traditional account, and then put the balance in a Roth. And again, that could apply to a traditional and a Roth 401k. It could apply to a traditional 401k and a Roth IRA, you know, however you want to do it. But it was 20 plus your age, put that in the pre-tax where you get the deduction, and then, you know, put the balance in the Roth. Now, here's the idea behind why you want to do that. The conventional wisdom says that older workers should be funneling most of their contributions into traditional accounts. Why? Because usually as you're getting older, you're reaching the peak of your earning potential. So when you were starting out in your job, in your career, you weren't making as much. Typically by that, you know, twilight of your career, you're earning, you know, your peak earning potential. And that's where that pre-tax contribution can really shine, because as you put the money in a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, you're getting that current year deduction. Well, why wouldn't you load it up and put all of it in there? Well, the reason is what these researchers were getting at is there is a couple of unknowns, and the biggest one is we just don't know what tax rates will be like during your retirement years. And so if we get into a much higher tax environment where, let's say, you know, the administration, not the current one, but a future presidential administration and Congress is aligned about much higher taxes because they're trying to solve the deficit, or that's their political, you know, ideology. Well, at that point, you would be glad you had some in a Roth account, which means you already paid the tax, perhaps at much lower tax rates, and then you had the growth, and now you're pulling it out in retirement at tax-free. And if you had both to pick from, you'd probably just let the traditional IRA, you know, grow, and you'd pull your income from your Roth account. And that's why they said, you know, 20 plus your age in traditional recognizes that as you age, we want to put more in traditional, and that, you know, takes advantage of the fact that you're at your peak earning potential. But it just recognizes we still need something in a Roth because of the unknowns, namely higher taxes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. This is post-employed.
Okay. Yeah. So let's do this. I've got to take a break, but I want to finish this conversation off the air. So you stay right there. We'll talk a bit more about your specific situation. More phone calls right after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Faith and Finance is underwritten by certified Kingdom advisor Kevin Bruce with Align Investment Research, helping families across Collin County honor God by stewarding wealth with wisdom and purpose. Because true peace of mind comes from aligning wealth with God's design. Learn more at align7.com or call 972-972-8465. 972-972-8465. Align is a registered investment advisor.
The executive office does have to direct a lot of these procedures in terms of amnesty, you know, what they can do, even though Congress needs to step it up. And we know constitutionally they should be making sure that the law reflects the American position, but law enforcement is the executive branch. And if you're not enforcing the law, then the law is merely just on paper.
Jenna Ellis in the morning, weekdays at 7 Central on American Family Radio. As the leading advocate for the Christian financial industry, Kingdom Advisors serves the public by promoting the integration of a biblical worldview across every aspect of the financial services industry. And we serve a growing network of thousands of Christian financial professionals, equipping and empowering them to carry biblical financial wisdom to their clients, peers, and community. For more information, visit kingdomadvisors.com. That's kingdomadvisors.com.
Imagine having biblical financial wisdom delivered to your inbox every week, helping you integrate your faith and financial decisions for the glory of God. At faithfi.com, you can join a community of over 70,000 people who are already receiving our weekly wisdom email, filled with articles, videos, podcasts, and exclusive offers on resources that will deepen your understanding of biblical stewardship. Start your journey today by creating your FaithFi account at faithfi.com. Just click sign up.
If we lose this cultural war, we're going to have a humanistic society.
Discover the story of the culture warrior Don Wildman and how he went head-to-head with Hollywood, Playboy, the homosexual agenda, and the Disney empire. The movement Don started paved the way for Christians to boldly stand for truth and righteousness in a hostile culture. Watch Culture Warrior today for free. Visit culturewarrior.movie. Are you feeling overwhelmed by credit card debt? As followers of Christ, we are called to be good stewards of what God has given us. That's why our trusted partner, Christian Credit Counselors, is here to help. Their debt management program can help you pay off your debt 80% faster while honoring your commitments in full. Take the first step toward financial freedom today. Visit ChristianCreditCounselors.org or call 800-557-1985.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on American Family Radio. Lynn and I talked a bit more off the air, and one of the things she's thinking about is how much should I convert, if any, from the pre-tax retirement accounts over to Roth in retirement. So they're beyond their working years. They're in this fourth quarter retirement season of life, and they're wondering how much should we be converting, if any. And what we were talking about is, you know, if she has the ability to write the check for the taxes on conversions, and she does it in small enough increments that she doesn't push any portion of it up into a higher tax bracket. So we're targeting 20% as an effective tax rate. And again, she's got surplus, so she has the ability. Yeah, I think so, because basically, yeah, I mean, basically what you're, and, you know, without it, you know, she has, again, no legal authority to access the account, stop the collections. They're not required to talk to her, but she could easily say, you know, he's passed, I don't have the legal documents yet, but probate is in process. Can you flag the account to pause interest or collection for now? And hopefully, and I know some lenders will do this voluntarily if you're acting in good faith. And then have you started, is the process started to get this death certificate? Usually that comes from the funeral home or the county office. And that's going to be one step necessary to get appointed as administrator.
Yeah, we've definitely started the process. When we contacted the county, they said that the doctors have not yet determined the cause of death. So and like I said, we're kind of separated from that side of the family, but we just understand that like there may be some foul play going on. So we haven't been able to receive that yet. So we're just trying to get ahead of all the accruing interest.
Got it. Yeah. So I think it can't hurt to place that call, and obviously each, you know, piece that falls into place, starting with the death certificate and then her being named administrator, will help. Hey, thanks for your call today, Clinton. We'll be right back.
Faith and Finance is underwritten by Certified Kingdom Advisor Kevin Bruce with Align Investment Research, helping families across Collin County honor God by stewarding wealth with wisdom and purpose. Because true peace of mind comes from aligning wealth with God's design. Learn more at align7.com or call 972-972-8465. 972-972-8465. Align is a registered investment advisor.
News happening in our nation's capital, but what about the things that happen behind the scenes? That information can give us the whole story and help shape our opinions. That's why you need to listen to Washington Watch Weekend with Tony Perkins. He and his guests will give you all parts of the Washington news from a conservative Christian perspective. Catch Washington Watch Weekend Saturdays at 5:05 a.m. and 6 p.m. Central, and Sunday mornings at 3 Central on AFR.
FaithFi is grateful for support from One Ascent. One Ascent believes that your values inspire why you invest and how they can inspire how you invest. One Ascent's goal is to provide solutions designed for every need and invest in businesses that bless the people and places God has made. They want to help investors do well by doing good, to explore a new way of investing that aligns with your values. More information is available at oneascent.com and by clicking Analyze My Investments.
Jesus said, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Today, put your heart into something that makes an eternal impact. Heart for Lebanon is sharing the gospel and protecting girls from early marriage, child labor, and violence. Your gift of $114 helps reach 3 at-risk girls with hope and a brighter future. Give generously. Text FAITH to 98656. That's FAITH to 98656. Or visit faithfi.com/Lebanon.
Great to have you with us today on Faith and Finance here on a Monday. It's the start of a new trading week. And Dow Jones, well, basically flat. The S&P 500 the same, and the NASDAQ. So, Bob, doesn't seem like we're going anywhere quickly. Why the sideways movement today?
I think the market, Rob, is digesting lots of things. Market was pretty flat last week after both the S&P and the NASDAQ made new all-time highs. I think the sidewise action is, okay, tell me what's going to happen with tariffs. How about inflation? What's the Fed going to do? Oh, and with the beginning of second quarter earnings reports, what are they going to look like? The market is kind of twiddling its thumbs and waiting for the answers to all those good questions.
By the way, that's the voice of Bob Dahl. He's our market expert. He's the CEO and CIO at Crossmark Global Investments, and he joins us each Monday with his market commentary. Bob, we had a caller just a moment ago asking about the big, beautiful bill, and specifically taxes as it relates to Social Security. We covered that, but what about just economic stimulants? And I know you were talking about this a bit in your commentary this week.
Yeah, the biggest deal that's, I think, not getting a ton of attention is the ability of corporations to expense capital expenditures. So what's that going to do? It's going to say if I want to build a building, expand my facility, normally I have to depreciate it over a whole bunch of years. Well, now I can write it off. So capital projects that have been sitting on planning desks of corporations probably get dusted off and get into action. That will help stimulate the economy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Bob, of course, we've got this Fed meeting coming up. I believe it was Fed Governor Waller that's saying we need to have that cut now. I know you have some thoughts on that, especially as it relates to what we've seen with unemployment, right?
Yes, the unemployment results of earlier this month show the unemployment rate fell unexpectedly. That's not generally an environment when you see the Fed lowering rates. However, many of us think the economy is in the process of slowing, and that's probably therefore going to come at some point in time. But the offset to that comment is inflation still is stuck closer to 3 than the 2 goal of the Fed. So lots of cross currents, uncertainty about tariffs and what that might mean for inflation and economic growth. All that's causing the Fed to just say, we're going to just sit on the sidelines for a bit. I think they'll lower rates at least once before the end of the year, but earliest will be September.
Bob, are you surprised that we've been able to keep, let's say, mortgage rates up in the high 6s, 7+ for as long as we have, not to mention other, loan rates, and it not deteriorate the economy more than it has, i.e. a full-blown recession or a meaningful uptick in unemployment?
For sure. Housing in general, for the reason you just mentioned and a few others, has been kind of weak. And housing often has a big influence on the economy, and so far it's only had a modest influence. Now we saw real GDP in the first quarter slightly negative. It's likely to have a 2, maybe a high 2 handle when the second quarter gets reported, and we're guessing we'll average somewhere between 1 and 1.5 for the full year. So you're absolutely right, Rob. Housing is really important, but has not dampened things all that much just yet.
Staying with interest rates for a second, if, let's say, Chairman Powell steps aside, that's a big if, and if the president puts somebody who's more aligned with his thinking on interest rates, and do you see us returning to, the period we had for the last 20 years where, we just kind of had these near zero interest rates, or do you feel like we'd kind of live somewhere in the middle between where we were and where we are today?
I would argue the latter. That is, we live with interest rates lower than they are today, but higher than they were when they were essentially zero for basically a decade. So further to go to the downside, but not just yet. And my editorial comment is, let's hope if Chair Powell isn't there, it's because he's decided not to be there. We want the independence of the Fed to be maintained. It's an important part of our system.
Bob, last question. Looking kind of out over the next decade, just given the pieces that have been put in place for the first 6 months of this year, does that change your base case on what you were calling for, which is kind of more modest annualized returns over a 10-year period?
It does not, Rob. The 10-year return has a large amount of input from two things. One, the starting PE ratio, and number 2, the level of profit margins. PEs are high, profit margins are high. That almost guarantees more mediocre returns for the next 10-year period. Doesn't mean you can't make money. It's going to be a little harder.
So does that mean 6-7 versus 8-9 or 5-6? What do you think is kind of the big case?
I'm using a single point for the stock market, Rob, of 5%. There are people, believe it or not, who are lower than that. There's some 3s floating around. Wow. I just think it's not going to be 10 like so many people have gotten accustomed to.
Now, if you're 40 and you're planning for retirement and running calculations, what number would you use over, let's say, a 30-year, 30-year period?
Yeah, closer to the longer-term returns when I repeal the system that gets us there. So maybe it's not 10, but I think 8 is a comfortable number.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Bob, we appreciate it always, my friend. Have a great week.
You the same. God bless.
All right. That's Bob Dahle, CEO and Chief Investment Officer at Crossmark Global Investments, a leading faith-based investing fund company with ETFs, mutual funds. Check it out, crossmarkglobal.com. While you're there, sign up for Dahl's Deliberations, his weekly investment commentary. All right, back to the phones we go. Let's get to as many questions as we can before we round out the program here. Let's go to Texas. Carl, how can I help you?
Hey, good morning, Rob. Really appreciate what you do with that love. Hey, I've got 2 granddaughters that I got the youth savings for, and I noticed that they weren't drawing any interest, or very little. So I transferred one into a CD. And then, are you still there?
Yes, sir. No, I'm good.
Okay, so I transferred it into a CD, a 6-month CD, so I could, periodically shop around. This was kind of hastily done. But then I hear you saying, like, Trinity Credit Union. Mine's a credit union also, but has, like, just a savings account at 5%. I'm only getting 2% on the CD.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I haven't put the other granddaughters in because it's only around 5,000. The older one's about 10,000. One's 13 and one's 10.
Yeah.
So I got time on the other one.
Yes.
But I'm trying to figure out how to go from a youth savings, which I already did with CD without getting penalized, into either a regular savings with both our names on it or some other package where I don't get penalized because I transfer the money.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have a custodial account, which if that's the case, you wouldn't be able to move it from the custodial account where essentially it becomes the child's asset at the age of majority. If you retitle it in your name, that would not be, you wouldn't be able to do that. So you need to stay with the custodial account, but it doesn't mean you couldn't open a custodial account if that's what you have, as we're hearing. You couldn't open one somewhere else and try to get that yield up. I was mentioning Christian Community Credit Union. They have the Harvest High Yield Savings. They're doing 5% APY for balances up to $5,000. So you could look at doing something like that. You could, also shop it around, but you would need to keep it in that custodial account type.
Well, I'm stuck with the one till December with a 6-month CD. Of course, I can get with Trinity, open up an account. I don't know if they'll still have the same rate in 6 months, but I can.
Well, yeah, I mean, whatever rates are, if rates are coming down, theirs are going to come down too, but they're usually at the upper end of that. Now, Trinity is probably what you're hearing maybe as a credit counseling agency. This is Christian Community Credit Union, just making sure you know the distinction there. But yeah, I would just keep your eyes open for where you can get the best rates when that time comes. And, you can check out faithfi.com/banking for Christian Community Credit Union. You can also go to bankrate.com and just, shop across all the online banks. But the online banks and credit unions are going to be the ones that have the best rates because they don't have to pay for the brick and mortar operations.
Truthfully, what I'd like to do is get them in the mutual funds, but I don't know what the ramifications would be. If they go into college, now they've got
yeah, I mean, that's the challenge, is you want to make sure the time horizon matches, and so if we're less than 5 years away, you probably don't want to do that. So, if you were going to start a Roth IRA for them and they had some earned income, well then, that would be different, because then you could put it in mutual funds and just forget about it, let it grow. But this is in part or fully for college. You probably want to stay on the more conservative end. I'm thinking, high yield savings, CDs, you can do some treasuries, things like that. But, I think the key is trying to protect the money, because what you don't want is, 3 years from now, we're in a recession, the market's down 20 or 30%, and they're needing to pull the money out, to pay for tuition, and they're having to sell some investments at a loss. So I don't think you're off track here. I think you just need to look for better rates when that time comes. I appreciate your call today, Carl. God bless you, my friend. Renee, I apologize we didn't get to your call in Alabama. Let's see if we can get you first on the program tomorrow. I'll have the team get with you and see if we can get you scheduled. And we'd love to take your question today about a life estate. Folks, thanks for being with us today. Some great questions. Appreciate all your kind remarks about the program. If you'd like to support our work here at FaithFi, becoming a partner is a great way to do it. That's those who support us at $35 a month or more. And we send you our quarterly magazine, Faithful Steward, all of our studies and devotions, and you get pro access to the FaithFi app. Big update coming this fall, including our digital studies. You're not going to want to miss it. Big thanks to my team today, Jim, Devin, Sandy, and everybody here at FaithFi. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
90.5 KTXG Greenville, Dallas.
An insider means you understand the joke that only certain ones really know. Other times, it gets you into exclusive places. As an AFA insider, you'll get information about issues and policies that can dramatically impact our families and our Christian rights. And you won't have to travel to D.C. or even dress up to get it. Find out more and sign up at afa.net/activism.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
American Family News, I'm Rusty P. 2 victims and a suspect are dead after a shooting at a church in Lexington, Kentucky. Jill Dado has more.
A suspect got into a confrontation with a state police trooper at Lexington's Bluegrass Airport. The trooper got shot and hurt. The shooter carjacked a vehicle and wound up at Richmond Road Baptist Church, where he shot and killed 2 women. City Police Chief Lawrence Weathers got emotional while speaking to reporters.
Sometimes things happen. We just don't have a reason why. But we're going to be here.
for the people of Lexington.
The suspect was also killed, but police aren't giving full details about what happened yet.
As expected, Democrats are criticizing the new migrant detention center in the Florida Everglades.
The conditions that we saw inside this internment camp were really appalling. These detainees are living in cages. They are essentially packed into cages, wall-to-wall humans.
That this is a total cruel political stunt meant to have a spectacle of political theater.
A clean cage is still a cage. That's right. And they couldn't even keep this clean.
But DHS Secretary Kristi Noem and Border Czar Tom Homan say those are just more Democrat lies, because detainees are being treated much better than they were under Joe Biden.
Our detention centers at the federal level are held to a higher standard than most local or state centers and even federal prisons. We will take cameras in there and show people what these facilities look like, because if you compare them to what happened under the Biden administration and under the Obama administration, these centers are at the highest levels, and they're even higher than what our federal prison standards are, or state or local often are.
They have the highest detention standards in the industry. But these same congressmen are complaining about alligator Alcatraz. You didn't see them complaining about under Biden administration people being held in Border Patrol parking lots surrounded by a fence in the sweltering heat. Not a word. You didn't hear a word about 500,000 children being trafficked in the country and them not being able to locate 300,000.
The new Senate report looks into the Secret Service's errors in the run-up to the assassination attempt on President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania last year. Chanley Painter has the details.
The 30-page Senate report blasts the Secret Service for a, quote, cascade of errors leading up to the failed assassination attempt. The Senate report found that, quote, U.S. Secret Service headquarters denied or left unfulfilled at least 10 requests by the Donald Trump division for additional resources during the 2024 campaign. The former head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, refuted the report, saying this, quote, the director of the Secret Service is not typically directly engaged in the approval or denial of requests for support. For the Butler rally, I actually did direct additional assets to be provided.
But a retired Secret Service agent says he is confident that the agency will thwart any attack that is brought to bear upon the president, including from Iran.
Sunday marked the one-year anniversary of the tumultuous events in Butler, Pennsylvania. Just days before the one-year mark of that event, the Secret Service admitted that 6 agents were suspended back in February without pay, but no one was fired. Confidence of the Secret Service had been shaken by Butler and the second attempt on Trump at a golf course in Florida. The president says he has directed the Secret Service to give him every bit of information known about his 2 attempted assassins last summer during the presidential campaign. He also made it clear that if Iran attempts an assassination, that country will be obliterated. Ken Valentine served 24 years with the Secret Service, including 10 years with the Presidential Protection Detail.
I'm not sure whether I think so little of the Iranians or I just believe that the Secret Service will get the job done, but I have every confidence that the Secret Service that is with President Trump today will thwart any attack that's brought to bear upon the president, and they're going to die trying for sure. And so I have great confidence that they would prevent that attack, and if the attack wasn't prevented and it came, that they would get the president out of harm's way and thwart that attack.
I'm Chad Groening.
For American Family News,
Hello, my name is Andy Miller, and I'm the president of Wesley Biblical Seminary based in Richland, Mississippi. We are developing trusted leaders for faithful churches, and we do that based in the authority of Scripture and in the reality that Christians can be transformed. We do that also through bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees. We'd love for you to learn more about Wesley Biblical Seminary at wbs.edu, where we're developing trusted leaders for faithful churches.
Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues. That's the name of this show on the American Family Radio Network on this Monday, July the 14th, 2025. I hope you had a nice weekend, and we are ready for, I hope you're prepared for another week of bad news, ladies and gentlemen. No, we got some good news too. It's always a mix, right? But joining me in studio is Ed Battagliano. Good morning, Brother Ed.
Yes, that was my coarse and irritating laughter in the background.
When I said bad news?
Yeah, welcome to another week of bad news.
A little sarcastic laugh there. And Fred Jackson, good morning, Fred.
Good morning. I'm the one that has to deliver this.
I know. We have our what we call show prep meeting, which is, yes, ladies and gentlemen, we do prepare for this hour and a half each morning about 8:15 or 8:30 here at our offices, and we always say, can we have some good news? You know,
right.
Can we have and we will have some good news, but unfortunately, the fallen world that we live in, bad things happen, and we have to talk about them and report them. And then we got a very sad incident. I say incident, situation.
Yes, out of Fall River, Massachusetts. I think it's about 50 miles from Boston. There's an assisted living facility there called Gabriel House. At about 9:50 last night, firefighters responded to a call there. And when they got there, this facility was in flames. And if you go to afn.net, you will see a picture of this facility because it plays into this story because it's about a 3-story building. This building was in flames. When firefighters got there, there were people even hanging out of windows saying, help me, help me. By the time they got the fire under control, 9 of the residents there were dead, and there are about 30 that are still being treated. We don't know what caused this fire yet, but, you know, these assisted living facilities, and it isn't always senior citizens that live in these areas. Sometimes it's disabled people. So we're not sure how that all breaks down in this particular place. But very tragic story. And firefighters did their very best. But the fire was well established by the time they got there around 10 o'clock last night.
And I'm looking at a story from AFN.net, American Family News, AFN.net. Good story covering this. There were about 50 firefighters that responded, it said, including 30 who were off duty. So this was one of those things that was kind of an all hands on deck, and they did the best that they could. And some of those who were rescued, I guess, taken to different hospitals. But sometimes, like you said, a fire that's well established, it's unsafe for firefighters to go in, and it's a terrible way to die, especially if some of these people who perished, were, confused, didn't know what was happening. But
well,
tough thing to
listen. Also, what complicated the matter, I'm sure, was a multi-layer building. I mean, multi-story building. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And a lot of these folks. I mean, we're all familiar with assisted living places, and for the most part, the people can get around, but they're older and they can't move fast. But there are some that have to have walkers and
and it's at night, so you're not going to have your full staff trying to help people get out. If there's a lot of smoke, people, even if you're young, it's easy to get confused about where you're located. And people might get into closets. It's just a terrible thing.
You know what our country is going to face? And of course, this is true of Canada too, Fred, but in other parts. Our country is going to face a big issue, and is facing now, but going to in the next 10 to 20 years. Care for the elderly is going to be a massive challenge, problem. And I'm not looking at you guys because you're 10 years away from being called that. But
I wish I was 10 years away from being called that.
You're called elderly, but you know what I'm saying. What I'm saying, like the other day I was reading about a nursing home facility going bankrupt. Well, okay, what happens then? you know, let's say you got 100 people in a nursing facility that goes bankrupt. What do you do?
Do something with them.
Most of the times, if you have an apartment or you have something, you can evict people, but you can't evict.
Well, you will. There'll be no place to take care of them.
If the bank, yeah, what happens?
Family members have to find alternatives.
So how, you know, how do you guard against that happening? You know, going bankrupt, because oftentimes these places are run by companies.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And it's a business.
It's a business. And if the business goes under, then what do you do with the citizens, the people who are in there and they can't easily move out? They don't know where to go, what to do. I'm just saying it's going to be not just a bankruptcy. That was worst case scenario, but I'm talking about just care for people who is going to become a real. Because
our population is
growing,
aging. The aged group is growing in size because subsequent generations, and like you said, this is true around the West. It is true in China. People have stopped having sufficient number of kids to make the elderly age bracket no different than any other age bracket.
Right.
So.
All right. Well, this is a very sad story out of Massachusetts. You say, Fred?
Yes, Fall River, Massachusetts.
A fire killing 9 people at a seniors.
30 injured.
Yes, 30 injured.
More information, by the way, if you check out American Family News, AFN.net, you can find that story there.
All right, go ahead.
Also on American Family News, another sad story, and this is from yesterday in Lexington, Kentucky. A suspect killed 2 women at a Kentucky church after shooting a state trooper. Let me try to unfold the story a little bit. Yesterday morning, a state trooper at the Lexington's airport, for some reason, was suspicious of a car, took down the license plate, somebody call it. It brought up a warning. He confronted the guy driving this car. The guy opened fire on the state trooper. The trooper was injured. He's undergone treatment for that wound. The guy takes off. He carjacked another car, takes off, and heads toward a church, Richmond Road Baptist Church. And again, if you go to AFN.net, you'll see a picture of this church. It's a little church in the country. And this guy enters the church. What we do know now at this point, he was looking for the mother of his 3 children. And what the Associated Press and other media are reporting at this hour is he confronted a couple of women. I think they were downstairs getting a meal ready or something like that. And he asked where his wife was, where this woman was. They told this man, she is not here. And he replied, well, somebody has to die today. And he opened fire. And in doing that, he killed a 72-year-old woman and a 32-year-old woman and injured several others. I'm not sure how the police were alerted to this, tracked this guy to the church, and they took this guy out. They shot and they killed him. So, like I say, a very small church. The way the press is describing it, kind of a lot of family members at this church, very close-knit congregation. But apparently he was looking for the mother of his 3 children. They weren't there. This guy, now deceased, as I mentioned, was well known to police. In fact, one report says he was due in court today for another charge. But just opened fire. He was apparently said, I can't kill the mother of my children. I'm going to kill somebody.
And then the police, again, the story on American Family News, this church was about 16 miles away from where the trooper was shot. I guess that was, you said, at the airport.
Yeah.
And they were able to track his vehicle, I don't know, maybe with a drone or a helicopter or what have you, but they were able to, because they must have arrived at the church pretty quickly after he had opened fire. And then he was killed as well.
So it wasn't he didn't go into the church looking to kill Christians.
No, there's no indication of that.
Right.
Yet.
Right. It was a situation, what do you call it?